a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
Some healing doesn't happen in the office. Some breakthroughs don't come from advice. Sometimes healing happens in silence, standing next to a horse that feels your heart before you do. Today's conversation is about grief, sure. It's also about leadership. It's about the quiet work of becoming whole again. So this is the Prosperity Lounge. Welcome back, everybody. Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. You know the saying, where freedom lives, where faith and action meet. It's where we talk about money, business, leadership, and especially life. I'm Joey Ruffalo, founder of the Prosperity Lounge community, your host and best-selling author. And shameless plug for myself, I help business owners and people plug profit leaks so you can pay yourself first and stress less. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been pulling up a chair for a while, thank you for being part of the growing community. You can catch all of our action on our YouTube channel, theprosperitylounge.com YouTube channel would be youtube.com/@theprosperitylounge. I'm getting ahead of myself. You can visit theprosperitylounge.com and join the free community. Use code RADIO and get a free 8-step action guide to stop living paycheck to paycheck. You can listen wherever you are on any of your favorite podcast platforms. You can find us there. You can also find our daily show, our Daily Dose of Prosperity, and a couple of our new clips. Follow us on Facebook and join the community where you can. Before we jump into the action tonight, I want to thank our sponsors who help make these conversations possible. Bello Business Solutions. Use the code on the screen to contact them or go to their website, bellobusinesssolutions.com. Use the code or mention Make Business Make Sense. Get a free consultation. It's definitely worth the call, especially with tax season coming up. And our friends over at LaPera Insurance. LaPera Insurance, call 865-252-0480. Talk to Joe LaPera or email him at jlapera, that's JLAPERA, @farmersagent.com. Use code JRRadio. The first 10 quotes this month get a free gift card. It's worth it just for the quote. Get a free gift card, guys. Next up, we got our friends over at Logos. Logos, study smarter with the #1 Bible study tool. Starting today, claim your 60-day exclusive free trial. Not a 30-day like they offer on the website. You got to click on our code and get the 60-day of any of their platforms, any of their offerings. So get the biggest package for 60 days, especially during this Lent season, and learn some stuff. And finally, our newest guys, Pure and Easy Tea. Pure and Easy Tea. Revitalize your body, refresh your mind, nourishing wellness one steep at a time. Use the QR code. You get a special offer for Prosperity Lounge listeners. And all these links will be in the show notes and the description. So if you want to watch later, come back, click on them. You are good to go. And if your business wants to align with the show, focus on growth, leadership, and stewardship, reach out to us at theprosperitylounge.com or email me at Joey, Joey, @theprosperitylounge.com. All right. Well, my guest today is Kim Henry, founder and chair emeritus of Maine Support, a Tennessee-based nonprofit offering equine-assisted grief counseling for children, families, and adults navigating loss and trauma. Kim holds a master's degree and is a certified equine-assisted counselor and certified, I'm going to mess this word up, Kim, thananologist. You can correct.
No, that was good.
Oh, good. Bringing decades of experience in hospice care, grief support, and therapeutic recreation into her work. She's also the founder of Spirit of Hope and Healing, an author, and an international speaker who works with leaders carrying heavy emotional responsibility, helping them rediscover strength, resilience, and perspective. Kim has devoted her life to creating safe spaces where healing can begin, sometimes without a single spoken word. So, Kim, thanks for pulling up a chair,
Oh,
and welcome
thank you.
to the Prosperity Lounge.
Oh, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Oh, I'm glad you're here too. So I want to get into a little bit of the origin stories of your journey here with Main Support and horses. And, people, as people listen to this, they might hear the mission of Main Support and think, wow, that's some powerful work you're doing over there. But powerful missions usually come from powerful stories. I've shared mine a bunch of times. So before we talk about the organization, I'd love to talk about you, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
Because, I had a mentor of mine tell me when I was struggling, figuring out what I wanted to do and how I needed to lead or help others. He said, you walk through a mess to deliver a message.
Wow, that's powerful.
And it
That's
sounds
really
like
cool.
we all walk through a mess at some point, but we just don't know how to deliver that message until we have an epiphany one day. And you had an epiphany one day when you were going through some stuff. Life, I want to say life changes. That's not the right word of saying it. But you had some things. You had a direction in life, and then something changed, and you took what you knew, and you got into horses.
Yeah.
Simple as I can say that. Tell me a little bit about how your personal experience led into the therapeutic work and eventually toward the founding of Main Support.
Oh, sure. Thank you. So, stories that we have, they're incredible links to whatever is going on in our life. You're absolutely right. Something that's happened that steers us in a particular direction. For me, yes, life was a little bit different and ever changing for a while. Hospice became my background quite a while ago. Looking and working with kids that had life-limiting illness was my main focus. I remember coming home one day. My husband in there at the time said, would you please go find something to do? Because I wanted to tell stories, about the kids. And so I met a wonderful person that introduced me to the world of horses many years later. And we went to a training called EGALA, Equine-Assisted Growth and Learning Association.
Okay.
And at that time, I was working in hospice with Covenant, and we joined the two. So we were doing Main Support in the school systems in terms of the inner city schools that we were working with, and then also partnered it with another nonprofit called KICS, Kids in Crisis Support. Leading up to that, definitely loss played a big part of my life. But I think, as we all find ways to deal with loss, mine became my joking statement. If God let me, I'd be under the barn. But that's not at all the plan. And I learned to rely on God in a different way, a very different way, so that I was able to take a breath and breathe. Being with the horses, something I never thought would be something that would be a ministry to people that I hoped. It became just my safe space when things went wrong. So it was leading up, I think, to everything that was getting ready to take place with Main Support, and then how that took off was nothing sheer than a miracle that God did. Nothing I did, truly.
Well, it's funny. I'm gonna call you out on something real quick here, because I got an email from you. I think it was yesterday or today, and I'm going to paraphrase it, but you didn't want your story defined by loss,
Right.
and I think
True.
that's how it was. And
Yeah, thank
I
you.
was like, man, I hope I'm not framing it that way, but I just want people to realize that there's sometimes from things that happen to them, even from if there's a loss or a change in life or something, it's not the end.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah.
You're right. And you find people and you find ways. And for me, it was an orchestration of great friends that I had, and the way that God just orchestrated everything and put that together. You're right. It doesn't define you. It's a part of who you are, but it doesn't define you.
Yeah, it's definitely part of that story and that path that you're taking, for
Mhm.
sure. I love that. In the early days, what did Main Support look like compared to what it's grown into now?
Well, beginning, when we first went to that training, what I remember hearing the person say was that it's a process. And that's what I knew from hospice. Hospice is a process. It's not an event,
It's a line there.
Right. It's loaded. But as it grew, it didn't become just this touchy-feely thing, because main support is different in the fact that we are on ground. So totally about someone's story instead of about an instructional model. Therapeutic riding is phenomenal, and all of the aspects of equine, in the equine industry. For us, it became important to stay on the ground, because it allowed people to tell their story without me saying, sit here, hold the reins here,
Okay.
do this. It became
So on
about-
the ground is no riding. You're walking with the horse or next to the horse, or you're on the ground next to the horse.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
So that has stayed. We've thought several times about going ahead and doing mounted work, because there is some efficacy with that, and there is some validity to being able to process. Because, if you when you're a baby and you get rocked, or when you get rocked anyway, the movement goes from the brainstem to the neocortex, and then processing is allowed, right? Verbalization. But sometimes with grief and trauma, we all know this, there aren't words. And how do you say them? And sometimes you can't. And when you can't, sometimes that gets labeled. So instead of labeling, we stay on ground and let people tell their story.
Okay. And I guess that process of I would say maybe it removes the intimidation factor of having to get on the horse for people who might be scared. So it removes that barrier and allows them to kind of go at their own pace.
Absolutely. Even we have had people that come to main support and they'll say, I don't like horses. And you're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
We will use that. Really? Okay. So by the end, it's about the fear of what happens to them now since the person died, the fear of what happens now since they've moved here and they know no one. The fear then takes over, but then that fear is able to be walked up to, touched, all of that, so that the horse becomes actually a metaphorical representation of fear instead of them having to voice it or verbalize some things that are going on. Does that make sense, Joey?
It does. It sort of, you're transferring the fear to something else and then working through that process with the fear, the horse, overcoming it, and then having what's the word I want to use? A reference point. How to maybe overcome fear the next time it pops up.
Yes, and then how big is it? Sometimes we'll use different sizes of horses, and just at a distance. Is your fear as big as one of our big guys today, or as little as our dwarf mini today? And then they begin to be able to walk closer to that, identify it. Again, it becomes their story instead of an instruction, which is so incredible to watch. That happen.
I love that, and I can imagine that. I think we talked a little bit about this off air about the temperament of the horses and the age of the horses. Riding them past a certain point is not conducive. You have to get off the horse at some point. But your horses that are there, some are a little older,
True,
but they still serve a valuable purpose because they're not riding them. They're just hanging out. You're hanging out with them. You're brushing them. You're feeding them. You're kind of walking around them. You're doing just chilling with them.
Absolutely. And I think some people relate to that,
Yeah.
the more seasoned we get in life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. So going back to your saying here of healing is a process, not an event. How did that belief shape how you built main support? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but was that the core, like your core value, your core mission getting into main support? Was it going to be built around that?
Wow, thanks for asking that. I think so. Absolutely. I hung on to that phrase. I remember because I repeat it quite a bit. And it is a process, and it's been an ever-changing process. I think all of us in the nonprofit or for-profit world, we find that we completely change. Sometimes day to day, sometimes year to year, whatever it might be. but it is a process, and it's what we do with that counts.
Mm-hmm.
If we get stuck in that process, then we don't get that great opportunity to meet more people and to allow them to tell their story. So.
Absolutely. Now, for somebody who is maybe walking through loss right now, what would you want them to know about how pain can eventually turn into purpose? Like, what was that point for you that you may be able to help somebody spark their journey into turn that pain into purpose?
Yeah. I think pain for all of us is different, right? It's on different levels.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's about taking time. The horses teach us really well how to live life in the moment. They don't have an agenda. They stand right there with you no matter what. I know you and I talked about that new fun fact, wherever that came from, that if you stand within 4 to 5 feet from a horse, they sync their heartbeat to yours.
Yeah.
So allowing people to sync their heart to yours, allowing yourself to be open to help. For a lot of us, asking for help is difficult at best. So I think to take a minute and breathe and know that there is help. It may not come in the same way as someone else's help comes. And I think that's the beauty of what Maine Support has grown into. It's become an individualized way of being able to tell stories of grief and loss. Everybody's story is so different, and their ways of processing are amazing to me.
One of the things I loved about what you're doing is that it doesn't look like what most people picture when they think of counseling. There's something about being outside, being present, being around animals that seems to sort of open up people in a different way. For someone who's never experienced equine-assisted emotional support, what does their first visit to Maine Support actually look like?
I would tell people that they took the greatest step ever by just coming through the barn door. That was huge and is huge. They meet horses. It's very comfortable. I always wanted it to be a place, and I think anybody that works with me and all the volunteers that have been with us, that was always the main goal. Allow people to just feel like it's their home too. I think that you can still have a therapeutic way and mannerism of being able to address different types of grief and loss without it being in a box. You're absolutely right, unless it's in a stall, but nonetheless. but that way the horses do take, I think, some of the stress of, what's going to happen here out of it, because they come up and they're there, they're breathing, they're moving. They don't have, like I said, an agenda. So if we remove all of that and we say, your first visit is just going to be a time for you to get to know us and get to know the horses to see if we're a good fit. A lot of times we don't always fit with each other. God just made us so individual, but it's not us that they're fitting with. It's actually the horses and then their story that they're putting into place.
Interesting. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Talked about the horse heartbeat. We talked about, you just said about helping the horses help remove some of the stress they take it on themselves. I was going to ask about what you've noticed about horses responding to human emotion, especially grief or anxiety. Is it across the board with horses, or is it a special kind of horse, a special kind of breed, a special kind of personality that could take this on? Because you think of humans, right? Some are more empathetic than others. Some are more, they could take on more people's emotions and carry it as a counselor, let's say, or not. Horses got it. I've seen videos of horses. They have their own personalities. Some don't want to know nothing.
Well, yes, and Joey, we use that, right?
Okay.
So, wow, what happened there? Well, that horse just ran away from me, just like everybody else does, right?
Oh wow, yeah.
Their story. The horses that we use, of course, safety is always primary for any of us, I think, that work with animals, no matter what they are. And we do our very, very best to make sure that people stay safe. not only physically, but emotionally and mentally as well.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are working with different horses, you will find that they mold themselves to different people. They will react to different stress levels. Their intuitiveness, I think that God gave them is amazing. They know us, like you said earlier, before we know ourselves. But we don't have a particular breed. We have some horses, on the farm that are little, really tiny, and some that are really big. So it just depends on how a person interacts and reacts with that horse. In terms of the horses themselves, is that okay if I address that and how they take on?
Absolutely.
Yes,
That's
thank
where I was
you.
going. Actually, that's where I was going next. So
Okay,
perfect.
great.
We're
Okay,
right on.
wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, we have a variety of horses, and we do that so that if we are working with a large group, like a bereavement camp, we can actually rotate horses through. You'll be able to tell when something's going on with a horse. They'll either get a little mouthy and not toward it's been odd, not toward any of the clients or campers, but toward us. You'll feel a little kind of nip on the leg, and that means I'm done.
Okay.
Or they will not want to engage. And we know then it's time to give them a break. It's time to let them readjust because you're right. Some of us, if you hear people and you're counseling and you're talking or whatever, and you listen over and over and over again, pretty soon you're like, I
Yeah.
can't hear
I
anymore.
need a break now.
Right. And so the horses are so much more in tune to that kind of emotional rise and fall than we are. So we try to make really sure that we take care of them. I'm going to do a real quick story.
Absolutely.
We had an incredible board member, and she gave us permission to share her story because she did come to us as a client beforehand. And when she walked in the barn, we had one older horse. His name was Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown was a retired jumper. So every time you would lead him out of the stall, he'd stretch and he'd pop and crack, from arthritis.
Sound like me in the morning.
Yeah, me too. So we brought him out, but she wanted to pick him because he was the oldest in the barn. And she felt like she was a little bit more on the seasoned side.
Mm-hmm.
She and her daughters rode horses. She loved horses, knew all about them. So she came in to the arena. We brought Charlie Brown in, and we do have a set way of doing some activities, but we try again to look at what's happening with the client on that particular time. So she took a brush and she began to brush Charlie Brown's mane.
Mm.
And the whole time she began to cry. So the way that the model was set up was that we become very quiet and we make sure that, of course, safety is in place, but it's time for us to be quiet to find out what the process is. So about 3 to 4 sessions of doing that same kind of thing. Finally, on the last one, I said, Betty, each time you come and each time we say, time's up, we'll see you next week. But this is what you've done. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? And so in her words, to the best of my memory, she said something to the effect was, it's the last thing I did for my daughter before she died.
Oh.
So the horse became a representation of what her daughter was. The mane became the hair, and the brush became her way to say, I just really need to talk about this, but I can't. So that allowed her to process through the story.
Wow.
This was the greatest thing about Charlie Brown. Remember, I said that he was very arthritic.
Mm-hmm.
So typically horses will stand and they will shift their weight, back and forth to get some movement. He stood perfectly still, Joey. The entire time with Betty, he stood perfectly still. And I remember we would talk about it. How did he do that? Because once she left, we would have to ease him back little by little because he stood with her no matter what. So then it became up to us to take care of him. But it was I've never forgotten that. That was quite a while ago. Those stories that you never forget that you go, wow, God, you were there in so many ways,
Wow.
but especially with Charlie Brown. So the intuitiveness, yes, sometimes being on the ground can seem like a little hokey, but once you see it work over this many years and once you hear the stories from people that they tell because of the horses and their relationship with them, it's not hokey at all.
Is there something that you've discovered or saw people discover about themselves when they experience this kind of healing for the first time?
Wow. Gosh, amazing things. We learn from people so much every day. I've seen people, what we call find their voice, have a horse stand in front of them and we'll say, can you move the horse without touching the horse? And we've got the horse on the side and they'll go, can you move?
They gotta
Can you move? And then it grows into, can you move?
Yeah.
Right. So,
Hey, come on, go.
right. Leave. But it teaches, we see people find their voice is what
Yeah.
we always say. Finding their voice means, yes, audibly finding their voice, emotionally finding their voice, whatever it is to allow them to process the grief that they have. We've seen all kinds of things happen with horses. We talked a little bit about painting on horses. A lot of us do that with non-toxic paint. Let me just do the disclaimer.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're painting something that's difficult, can you touch it? Can you wash it away? What happens when you get to that point of washing it away? Can you then let it go? Can you step back and go, okay, I'm good now. That is my memory. That is what I want, but I don't need it right now. So watching people make those steps on their own, that's been the greatest part, on their own with their horse. That's been the most phenomenal lesson, I think, and just memory that I can think of.
Now, you briefly mentioned that there's horses of all shapes and sizes, from big horses to dwarf horses. I am not a horse breed expert. I'll be the first to admit anything about that. But what are some of the breeds of horses that you guys have? And is, like I said earlier, are there some that are better equipped for care? Or again, it's just a personality of horse. Like not all Clydesdales are perfect. There's certain ones might be. You have to kind of find. But how do you, I guess, let me go back up. How do the horses come to main support? How do you find them? And are there some that may not be a good fit, or are there some that, take me through the process of how the horses get there?
Sure. For the majority, the horses have been donated to main support. There are a couple of privately owned horses there too that we also use in the program.
Cool.
You're right. Not every horse is a great fit. They teach us that real well, but they teach us lessons through that process too, right? So we've had some wonderful horses come from circumstances that you would think they will never be able to be around a human. We have an incredible Tennessee walker. His name is Elvis.
Okay.
Elvis came from Horsehaven of Tennessee in 2014. And we have been so blessed with him. They found him actually in an airplane hangar with other horses starving. Oh. And so when I first met him, I thought, I have a special needs horse. It would just look like a big walking head, right? But he turned out to be this incredible Tennessee walker who has an incredible heart of gold. Talk about standing right there in the moment with you. His favorite thing to do is to either put his head on your shoulder and just nudge your shoulder, or if you're out in the field doing some work, he'll take your hat or he'll take the tools out of your belt and go. With clients that he's been with volunteers that he's been with staff that he's been with, you just can see that God-given attribute of, I'm right here. I got you. It didn't matter what he had been through. He began to trust. And maybe that's the lesson too of these horses. They teach us how to trust again when trust is broken.
Well, I know my wife's going to be looking forward to meeting him.
Yes.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, those Tennessee walkers, I had the opportunity to kind of see an event with them. God, beautiful horses. They
are incredible. In the care that he had with Horsehaven and plugging them for just a second, they're an incredible organization to take care of him, allowed us then that opportunity with him as well. So the others that we have a dwarf mini that fits behind the back seat of my truck when we go places. He's too small. And some minis, and we've had quarter horses in the past, and gypsy vanners, the big draft horses as well. So it just depends.
Probably should have made arrangements. You could have had the dwarf right next to you. What was the biggest horse you guys have or had at main support? You guys didn't have Clydesdales up there.
A gypsy vanner. About the same.
Oh, wow.
A little bit smaller, obviously, than a Clydesdale, but the same kind of framework. Okay. The feathers, what we call feathers, the big fluffy feet.
Yeah.
Yes, and just the most gentle giants
It's a
that
big
you'd ever
horse.
want to meet. Arctic horse.
So the Clydesdale once, and it was like I think I was up to like the bottom of its chest.
Yes,
and I'm
right.
like,
They're
I don't know how I'm getting on
massive.
those things.
Oh, they're massive.
Yeah.
I have a good friend of mine, and she works with some Clydesdales in Jamestown, and they're phenomenal. They've come out to the ranch too. They're just amazing, amazing.
Yeah, it's actually really funny. You're talking about the horses and like, trust and just how they connect. And I'll share a story about my wife. Gosh, was it almost 2 years ago now? She had a she had, lack of a better thing, she had brain surgery.
Wow.
A big tumor removed from her skull and her brain. And, process of healing after that was a little tough. And right before that, when we were going through the process of figuring out what was going to happen, this was in March, she had the surgery. It was December of 23. We were down in Loudoun County at the, they had their Christmas festival, and they had a horse and carriage ride.
Mm-hmm.
And we got there, and the horse just kept turning and looking at her and turning and looking at her. And she was like, oh, the horse is looking at me. Okay, this is weird. But so afterwards, she wanted to go meet the horse. So we met the horse, and the horse just came over and like nudged her and like gave her, like licked her face and stuff. And she was just like, oh my God, I love horses.
Wow, that's amazing.
And the horse's name was Java.
Uh-huh.
And so the next year we went back in 2024, and Java was there doing the horse rides and came up to her and gave her a little nudge. Same horse. And last year we went, Java was there. Same nudge. Every year we have a picture with Java going forward. And Java remembers my wife. And so she looks forward to every year just going down and seeing Java and saying hi. And, and now when we go see horses everywhere, I don't want to say like she's like a little kid. Horse. but almost like that. We have to go say hi to the horses.
Yeah.
And take pictures with them and just love on them. And we were driving somewhere, and I had my niece with us who had come to visit. It was my niece and my wife and me, and a horse trailer went by, and I pointed out the horse trailer to them, and they kind of looked over, and the horses were just like whatever. And then eventually the horses all looked up at my wife and stared at her as driving by, like they just, I don't know, picked up a vibe or something. So it's like, as you're saying, the connection they have, they can really feel this stuff. It's true, man. They do pick up on some stuff.
They do. And we know that, about all of us that love animals in general, right? Dogs, cats, what have you. We feel that connection. I think with horses, it's just so big and in your face, and their movements, because at any point in time they could either leave or, do whatever they wanted to do, basically leave, but they don't. They don't for whatever reason, and they do connect. I truly believe that, and having seen it and watched it and now hearing it from you, I do think that they do connect. I've watched it just recently with a good friend, well, not good friend, husband now, Bert, be out in the field with Elvis, and had no halter or lead rope on him, just walking with him, and they've had some kind of connection, some way, somehow, and he'll follow him in, and they'll do that a lot with people that they connect with.
Like you said, it's like the same like with dogs and cats and stuff, like you talk about it, but it's just on a much larger scale, and I think much more of a I don't want to say more intuitive, but yeah, you could definitely see it. Like what am I trying to say? Horses, for someone like me who didn't grow up around horses, dogs and cats were like your main pet. Horses were like once or twice removed from being a pet, or removed from being a companion animal around you. So seeing like something that far removed from what the norm is, connecting with you, you feel special about it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm sure people who grow up around ferrets or geckos, and the gecko looks at them when they come in the room, they feel the same way, like, oh yeah, there's a connection. I completely get it.
Yeah,
I completely get it. It's just when a horse does it, I don't know, there's something like mystic or magical about it, or romanticized or I don't know what words I'm trying to use. Epic, something about it.
Epic.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, we can look at it from a standpoint of factual. Well, they do this because A, B, C, D, but do they? I mean, we really, we don't really know. What we know is what we see, and what we see is a connection, and that constant connection with people that they don't have to have.
Yeah, and I think it's more of I guess what I was trying to get at too is more of a historical connection
Yes.
that we've
that's
kind
a
of
good
gotten
word.
away from
Mm-hmm.
because horses were the mode of transportation.
Absolutely.
You and your horse went everywhere together, so there was a connection. The horse didn't want to go, he'd throw you,
Right.
and they were so good. You'd see the old westerns. Again, I don't know how factual the westerns are, but you pull up to the woods thing out, whatever it's called, the wood thing outside the saloon, and they would just throw the harness over, like rip it one time, and the horse would just stay. The horse wasn't going anywhere. They know to stay. So there's a connection with that. Again, I don't know how factual all that is. Me watching a John Wayne movie and he did it. So, but yeah, just that connection. Then we get my horse, and the horse would have names. There'd be it was just, that's just, I don't know. Kim, it's amazing.
They are amazing. They teach us every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if this conversation is resonating with you all, make sure you're subscribed to the Prosperity Lounge and share this episode with someone who might need encouragement today. If you want to learn more about Kim's work, you can visit mainsupport.org.
Correct.
Perfect. So I want to get into something that's a little different than what you were talking about, grief support, but we've talked a lot about on the channel lately about burnout and leadership burnout, emotional weight. So you don't just work with kids and families, you also work with leaders. And what struck me about this is that leaders carry a lot of grief as well. They carry pressure, responsibility. And often as the leader, it's that phrase, it's lonely at the top. Nobody checks in on them. How do you think leadership can feel, or why do you think leadership can feel so emotionally isolating for people?
I think for me, when I started looking at what else can we do, how else can we help other people, I have had some wonderful mentors and friends in this industry. Lynn Petter with Star, and Nina with Horse Haven in Tennessee, Faith with Faith and Friends. These women are phenomenal. But at the end of the day, you wonder how much can you take? And for all of us, we all have a faith in God that we really hang on to. But once there is that one more thing that you think, oh no, I don't know if I can do this. When I really started to focus in on it was during the Gatlinburg fires. We were blessed to have a contract with the city of Gatlinburg. Oh. And I remember walking into a room beforehand, and we were meeting with the police chief and the fire chief. And the fire chief was a huge, tall man. And he said, "What makes you think you know my men and women better than I do?" I'll never forget that statement because it stopped me in my tracks. And I said, "I don't." Yes. So we go, time goes on, we go, and I actually would trailer up a horse. And we would be up on this top of this mountain, and there would be the police officers and the firefighters, and they would be separated at the beginning of the session. And then we would do some sort of activity with the horse, and then we would process. On this particular day, the activity that we did, it's a block that's painted with chalk paint, and you write on it with chalk. And the activity assignment, whatever you want to call it, was what things are holding you back from moving forward. We'd heard all the horrific things from people that not only were working as firefighters and police officers, but those leaders, of all the things that they continued to remember. So we put a horse in a round pen, and myself and staff, we were there with them, and they wrote on these blocks. And there were about 4 or 5 people in a round pen at one time, a large round pen with one horse on a lead rope. And they would place those blocks on the ground. Remember, those had words, things that were holding them back. When we turned around and looked, the fire chief walked in with his men and women, and he put his block down. And we all just kind of stopped. It's leadership in the middle of everything, right? So after the activity was over, there was a lot of mud and muck. It was snowy, rainy, cold. We started to process, and he didn't really say a whole lot about his block until we did a debrief. And he said, I don't know why that horse did what it did. It licked my word right off that block. And so his word was media. At the time, the media was really slamming everybody, slamming might not be a great word, but trying to figure out what happened. And that
Wow.
was what was bothering him the most. And he called it a classroom without words. And I thought, wow. From a leader, a classroom without words. So fast forward years later, begin to work with others in different capacities of what happens at the top. What keeps you from moving forward when you are on the front lines of everything. And that's basically how it started. Understanding a little bit about that and knowing that sometimes the day-to-day in a nonprofit world can make you want to find anyone that you can to pull into your circle. But having also that camaraderie and that commonality to be able to share with other people. Hey, this is happening, and we are all leaders, and everybody's a leader. You think about it in their field. Everybody, the volunteers that work with nonprofits, the staff, yes, the executive directors, the founders, whomever it is, everybody is a leader because they have a passion and a heart to do what they're doing. Now it's what they do to take care of themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where I wanted to focus. How do we help take care of other people so they can continue to take care of folks?
Yeah, I was going to be my next question is in these retreats, what are leaders usually realizing they've been neglecting in themselves? Because sometimes most of the time I've seen it's self-care.
A lot of self-care, I think. And understanding who they are, because they become so focused on achieving the mission, achieving the goal, making sure that everything is done, completely, that they forget about what's being taken away from them. And even down to, what are their thoughts and feelings and aversions about things that are happening? Do they have a voice? We were talking earlier about giving people a voice. So it is letting them understand first themselves and then applying it to their leadership and how can that shift a bit according to what's happening.
Now I would imagine that most people when they're no, let me back up. I can't imagine. I was going to say when you have these leadership retreats, most of them are probably coming already burnt out, but that's probably not the case. They're probably all ranges of I'm not burnt out yet to I'm getting there to I'm already burnt out. So in your experience around all these different people and these leadership camps and all these different stages of burnout, what are some early warning signs that you've seen that a leader's either burning out, maybe emotionally or even spiritually?
Sure. I think seeing a difference in personality, definitely. We talk about being a bit short sometimes, right? So a difference in personality. And if you dig a little bit deeper, looking at, are you sleeping? Are you eating? Are you able to have a family life at home? Are you able to go enjoy anything? Or what was the last thing that you enjoyed? Or the best question is, what is it that brings you joy in your life? And you have silence.
True. Yeah, because they either have forgotten.
Right, correct.
Or sometimes I've worked with some who feel unworthy to have something that brings them joy because they're so stressed about trying to provide for others.
Yes.
That they don't have time to think about joy for themselves because it feels like if I'm having fun and the work hasn't been done enough to support the team, then I've let the team down and I shouldn't be having fun or having joy in a moment when others aren't.
No,
As the
exactly.
leader, and it's just.
I'm so glad you said that, Joey. That is an excellent point. The feeling of, no, I can't. I really can't because nobody else is.
Yeah.
Or I need to make sure, even though the work's not done, they need to go home. I need to finish.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. That's why I said in my opening, when I work with businesses and people, it's to plug profit leaks, but it's more to pay themselves first to stress less. A lot of times business owners, they pay themselves last, which they feel is admirable. And I get it. But taking that stress to yourself and then unknowingly passing it along to your team is not giving your work environment it's not going to run on all cylinders.
Correct.
The stress at the top.
And you're right. And your team knows it, right? Much like when we're working with the horses, they know it in a heartbeat. You know, if a horse takes off running across the arena and they're going, I'm fine, everything's fine. Really? Wow, what just happened? You know, so I think you're absolutely correct. Everybody begins to know and maybe accept the person.
Yeah, my word.
Yeah.
This is a loaded question, but what are some things leaders can do maybe to learn to slow down and maybe receive some support without feeling like they're letting people down? It's kind of what we're just touching on a little bit. What are some things that you think they can do? How can they do that?
Sure. I think, you know, when we talked earlier about asking for help and how difficult that is.
Yeah, very.
Especially for leaders, you know, to ask for help. There was a phrase that someone had coined in a gala, and it's called POP. And I use that phrase, power of pause. Doesn't take a second to remember POP. And you can replace the last P with power of prayer, power of play, power of whatever that P might be. Do they take the time to do that? And I think that's when they have opportunity to be with other leaders with this leadership retreat coming up. I really wanted it to be a retreat. I think to take time to have a retreat, to take time to remember what it's like, to enjoy a conversation, and just to take time in general to do what the horses do. Life in the moment.
Absolutely. And you have this big retreat coming up here, and I'm getting up all the details here that you sent me. It looks like it's going to be, hold on, guys, March 5th, 6th, and 7th.
Correct.
And it's in Seymour at Horse Haven of Tennessee.
Correct.
It's a leadership retreat. That's amazing. So it's 3 days, $165 a person, which is amazing. Includes refreshments and materials. Space is limited. And it's about leadership. It's for people who serve in the role maybe within a nonprofit or even a for-profit company. It's basically, you have it here. This is an intentional time, a way to pause, learn, and reconnect with a purpose and perspective that first called you into leadership. Now, what I'm going to do, guys who are watching, is I'm going to share this on the screen here. And so people can see this here. Did I do it right? There we go. Okay, it's on the screen. Retreat focuses on to revive energy and passion for your work, rejuvenate your strength and perseverance, and rediscover the attributes and strengths God gave you to do what only you can do. By the way, I love the picture of you in a cowboy hat here.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It becomes what you do. You know, it becomes a staple.
Absolutely. So Thursday, March 5th, check-ins at 7, and there's breakfast refreshments. Retreats from 8:30 to 4:30. Friday, same thing, 7:30 check-in, 8:30 to 4:30, and Saturday, 7:30, and then 8:30 to noon. Perfect. And I like this retreat and revive, and then retreat, revive, and rejuvenate.
Right. So, you know, I don't know if anyone else is like this, but as you become very seasoned and going to conferences and things, you have this agenda that looks like there's 40,000 things to do in 1 hour.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't want that for this. I really wanted it to be a retreat. I didn't want to write up a whole agenda. I wanted us to work together to be able to understand that, you know, they're not alone. They're not alone in what they're thinking and feeling, because sometimes it can feel like you're not doing enough or that you're just not doing what you need to do at all. But that's not the case. So.
Yeah. So you talked earlier about was it Betty who was there and I was back volunteering on the board and stuff. When you hear stories of people who've come through main support and then later come back and give back, it's like a full circle moment, a full circle of healing. And I think that's what I really want people to understand is it's not just to survive grief, but you're transformed by it. And then how do you then use that for good? When you look back at the impact main support has had, what moment or moments remind you that this work really matters?
Wow. Let's see. There's so many. You start thinking, lately I've had the opportunity to work with an incredible volunteer, Karen Malone, who helps us put different things on our Facebook page. And with this Valentine's, the Feel the Love, we've had to go back and look at pictures of horses with clients and what is happening with them. And it's really been a great reminder for me at all the work the horses have done because of God, what God's allowing to happen. So let me think. Things, watching a child, walk with a horse and hug a horse that wouldn't come near it. I had an incredible teacher who was a client and then became a friend and then became our ambassador, Lauren Dake. And she taught me, oh, that was crazy. His moments, right? She taught me very well how to work in capacities when you couldn't. Lauren was in a wheelchair and her horse was Banjo. And the minute Lauren came in her wheelchair, Banjo ran the fence line in this arena. And I remember Lauren's words saying, "Well, I think we found the horse for me." Those moments, they're the ones that the clients or see as aha moments for them. It's not our aha moments; it's theirs.
Wow. Wow. You talked about people healing well. What does that look like over time for someone who's maybe walked through deep loss?
People healing well, I think that goes across the board in terms of individuality for everyone that's experienced different types of grief, right? It doesn't have a canned answer. I wish it did. I wish that I could go, and here's the book, and in chapter 1, you're going to do this, this, and this, and in chapter 2, you're going to do this. But it doesn't have a book. It doesn't have a way to get to the end. It's that process. So when people heal well, they begin to, like you were talking about, with the grief and loss not defining people, but they begin to incorporate that person or that loss into their life so that they can live again. And living looks different for everybody. Living for us may mean going and taking a walk, and living for somebody else may mean being able to get up and just walk across the room. Whatever it means.
Yeah.
But I think I hang on to the word hope always, and I know where, that God gives me that hope to get up on those days that I didn't want to get up. And we shared that story earlier, you and I did. But then there's a hope for a future that you get to see transpire. I've been able to see it in my life transpire, but you get to see it in them, not because of you, but because of the relationship with the horses and the relationship that God allows to happen.
What's your vision for the future of main support, and how can communities care for people who are hurting? What can the community do to support you guys?
Yeah. I'm so glad you asked that. Thank you. This comes at a perfect time. Main Support is 20 years old as a nonprofit. We were the grief center for the state of Tennessee. And as time has gone on, when no matter for-profit or nonprofit, we change, we shift, we try to do what we need to do for the communities involved so that we can be the best that we can be. And that's happened with Main Support. So we have taken a step back to reevaluate and look at what we need to do to help and how can we do it, maybe not on a large scale, but on a small scale, or who knows what the scale is going to look like. Nonetheless, starting March 1,
All right.
I will start seeing clients again. We are still in Rockwood,
Okay.
looking for a new place. So while we were still there, but also I will be seeing clients at Horsehaven, Tennessee, here in Seymour. So on the south side. So whatever direction people are, starting March 1, we will start doing client sessions again, just to see where we can best fit in as a grief center for those that are wanting to know how they can be a part of that, or if they need help. They can email me, definitely. We will be looking at what we need volunteer-wise again. Spirit of Hope was developed as an LLC to support Main Support, and that's going to continue. So
Okay.
the leadership trainings and all that just help support the nonprofit as well.
Love that. And then we had a question in the chat. Is there an age limit for volunteers?
We like to look at 13, but we also allow volunteers to come younger with a parent or guardian present.
Sweet. So, Kim, I got some questions that came in from
good.
some people here, and then we have our rapid fire round as we close out. So let me get to a good one here, and that came in. Okay, we answered that one already. Sorry, we answered that one too, guys. Good questions. David from Dallas. All right, cool. Thank you guys for writing in and watching the show. Is it just for people with trauma, or can everyday people benefit too?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Everyday people can benefit. It does help with trauma. I think just because of what we talked about earlier, in that there doesn't need to be a voice to describe the loss. But anyone can benefit from being around horses. As we mentioned earlier, Bert, who is now my husband, that we get to celebrate, he had not been around horses. And now to find that connection. So yes, anyone can be around horses, and it does provide, well, your wife, case in point too.
Mm-hmm. Follow-up question in the chat. Is there a max age for volunteers?
No.
Here you go.
No.
I expect to see you out there volunteering, Vance. Walking with the horse.
And I'll tell you why, Joey, because everybody has a gift, right? God gave everybody a gift to share. You don't have to be with the horses. You don't have to muck a stall. If you enjoy talking to people at fundraisers, if you enjoy hanging out and welcoming people, we've got a place for you.
Well, if the horses are being unruly and you can't get them back in the barn, call Vance. One look at him.
Vance, thanks.
Yeah, one look at him and they'll run back into the barn. All right, Kim. Well, every show we end with a rapid fire round, 10 questions, first things that come to your mind.
You know, this makes me nervous, right?
I know. Now, Mondays and Wednesdays episode, everybody gets the same question. On Friday, you get a special treat. You get questions that are specific to you and your craft. So I have a horse edition.
Okay. I'm ready.
I made it light and fun instead of being serious. So, all right. Number 1, favorite horse personality, the chill one or the dramatic one?
Ooh. Combination? That's not an answer.
Barn boots or clean sneakers?
Oh, barn boots.
Okay. Would you rather brush a muddy horse or step in a mystery puddle?
Oh, muddy horse.
Horses with big personalities or quiet old souls?
Can I do combination answer on that? I need to see.
Sunrise chores or sunset wind down? Favorite time of day?
Wow. These are both. Can I do a C answer of that? I'm an early morning person, so I love the morning, but also the quietness when you walk through the barn and they're all eating, and that quietness is phenomenal.
If horses could text,
oh no.
what's the one message you'd get the most?
Are you kidding me?
Okay.
Or it would be, okay, with a snark.
Funniest thing you've ever seen a horse do?
Oh, we were just talking about this. This is quick. We had 2 minis, Dakota and Skylar. It was wintertime. There was snow on the ground. I was early on, so maybe year 2 or 3, and I put blankets on these little minis. We call them blankets, and they're coats. You've probably seen them on horses out in the field. Well, I wish I'd had a camera because one grabbed a hold of a flap on the tail and the other grabbed a hold of the other flap. So if you can imagine, they're in a circle and they're running in a circle. So one's got a hold of the tail and one's got a hold of the tail, and they're running in this circle that's crazy. And they don't stop. They think it's a funny thing. But okay, so that was a funny story. But sometimes in the morning too, if they've been up, they'll run and they'll kick and they'll do all kinds of crazy things. And it just shows, I think, God's got a sense of humor because there's something fun and funny in everything that they do. So
love that. All right. Snacks in your pocket for horses or for yourself?
Can you have the ones for horses that double for yourself?
Like carrots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Usually it's horse treats.
If you had to name a horse after your mood today, what would you name it?
Oh, wow. Hope. But I will tell you, and as a disclaimer, everybody that knows me knows I name everything Hope. We even have a concrete statue that's named Hope, just because I so believe in the hope God gives us.
I love that. And finally, Kim, what is your personal definition of prosperity?
Wow, personal. Finding joy in everything you do, no matter what.
I love that. Kim, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
People want to connect with you. They want to find you. They want to volunteer. They want to support Maine Support. What's the best way for them to reach out to you?
With the email. Is it on, Joey? The 2 Ks, KKHenry at Maine, MANE, support.org.
KKHenry at mainsupport.org. Perfect. I'll make sure we get that in the show notes. So if you're watching or you want to watch later or you're listening on the podcast, it'll be in the notes for you to click on it, connect with her, tell her you saw on the Prosperity Lounge. Tell her she did a great job and you loved her stories, and maybe give her an answer to what some of those questions were. Do you like sunrise or sunset?
Oh, I would love to hear everyone's answers. Please do that. Please.
Yeah, please do that. Put them in the chat. Let me know. We got a special treat when the show ends here on the radio. I'll try to do it on the replay and the podcast, but Kim's now husband wrote a song about Maine Support.
Yes, Burt Warner. Yes.
And we're going to play it live on the radio when the show ends. So stick around for that, listen, and then send a message. Let us know how you liked it. And I really appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out. You can check us everywhere on YouTube, podcast. Check out the Daily Dose of Prosperity. It's our new daily show, 9 a.m. every day, Monday through Friday on YouTube and its own podcast. 5 minutes or less, quick tips on discipline, stewardship, accountability, leadership, everything that you want to do. We're growing this year with that. We have our new, once a week, we're doing a new Business Briefs episode where we break down the top business stories in Tennessee and beyond. Also, we have our Monday, Wednesday, and Friday main show. So Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We're here on YouTube. Mondays and Wednesdays, we have a live show and a live after show. And, of course, Fridays here, we are on the radio, live and in person, as they say. So, healing doesn't always start with answers. Sometimes it starts with presence. If today's episode spoke to you, share it with someone who may need a gentle place to land. And as always, everybody, check out the show, put a comment in the comments, like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Until next time, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This is the Prosperity Lounge.
Pull up a chair, the journey's begun. This is where momentum meets the sun. The